Well, 2024 is about to come to an end. We have about a week now before the start of 2025, and with that, a brand new year of film, new movies, new stuff to talk about on my channel. And with this last couple weeks, Christmas week obviously, and then New Year's, we have the end of year videos. Now, normally the way that I do these, and these are my favorite videos of the year to really kind of put together my thoughts on all the great movies, TV shows, video games that we had for the year, and also look forward, which is what this video is, looking forward towards the next year. Usually I do the year of videos first, the best movies of the year, the best TV shows of the year, but this year I'm doing it a little differently. I'm doing my most anticipated video first, mainly because I haven't seen everything I need to see in 2024 to make that video. Like Nosferatu, why did you have to release it on Christmas? So that video will be coming in about a week or so once I get to see Nosferatu, just because I have a feeling that movie might rank quite high on my list. So please subscribe, turn on notifications, tell your mom about me, tell your family about me, because we're going to be making videos like this all the time. Because in this video, I'm going to be breaking down my most anticipated movies for 2025, a year that on paper looks like it might end up being a weaker year for film. I mean, 2024, I thought kind of the same thing, and I was kind of right. It was a little bit of a weak year, or at least a top-heavy year. Next year looks to be sort of the same thing. It looks to be a movie that has a lot of potential films that could be amazing. A lot of filmmakers coming back with sort of their second movie after their first movie was a big hit. Lots of stuff like that, and maybe some of these things hit, and this could be a massive year, or it could be a dud. But there are a lot of movies that I am personally intrigued by for next year, and that's really the word I'll use to describe a lot of these movies. It's intrigue. A lot of them, I don't know if they're going to be great, but I am intrigued at the thought of, will they be pulled off? Will these films and these concepts work? So I'm going to go through all of them. I have a lot of them. I actually have 30. I went a little crazy. These are in order of excitement. They're not in order of release date. Some of these I will go through fast because I don't want this video to be an hour long, but yet again, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. Let's get into it. Coming in at number 30 is Sinners. This is a brand new film from Ryan Coogler, who's one of the more intriguing directors in Hollywood. Of course, he's the guy behind the two Black Panther movies and, of course, the original Creed. So he has a pretty good track record as a filmmaker, but this is his first venture into sort of a darker, violent horror film with vampires. This would have been probably higher on this list if I hadn't seen a trailer. I thought the trailer kind of looked goofy. I don't know. Hopefully the film is a lot better than the trailer that we got, at least in my opinion, but this movie does have a lot going for it. Obviously, Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan's in it, Haley Steinfeld's in it. Great cast, great ideas. I'm intrigued. At number 29 is Freakier Friday. I can't wait for this. I love Freaky Friday. I love Lindsay Lohan, and of course Jamie Lee Curtis, who's one of, if not my favorite person to see in movies. I just love her so much. And why not do a sequel to Freaky Friday? This could be so much fun. I don't think this is going to be anything great. I just think it's going to be a damn good time at the movie theater. I'm more excited for this one than I probably should be. At number 28 is The Gorge. Unlike Sinners, this is one that's on my radar based on its trailer. This is the brand new film from Scott Derrickson, who actually appears on this list twice, so stay tuned. This is a straight-to-Apple TV movie, which is stupid, but it's got a really cool concept. It stars Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy, who play this American and Russian sniper who are in charge of watching this gorge, and in it is some kind of evil monster thing that they don't want to mess with. And it's going to be like a romance movie and a mystery thriller, and I really dug the trailer for this, and I really dig Scott Derrickson as a filmmaker. He hasn't really missed for me. I think he's really, really good at making movies, and I'm excited for this. It should have gotten a theatrical release. That is ridiculous. And number 27 is Tron 3. I'm not sure if this one has a title yet, but this is the brand new Tron movie that's going to be the finale, I guess, of this weird trilogy of Tron movies that we will now have. This one's going to be starring Jared Leto, and listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Tron, but I've seen a lot of the set photos for this. I've seen Jared Leto's passion, although he's been very passionate about other, projects that didn't work out. But I'm just intrigued by this. It's a gigantic Disney CGI film, another Disney franchise property. I have a feeling this is going to suck, but yet again, I'm just interested at the potential of maybe it won't. Maybe this will be something that's big and bold and beautiful and amazing and kind of redefines the genre. Who am I kidding? This is a Disney movie. This is going to suck, but I'm interested to see how much it sucks, how much making videos on it, and how much fun making videos on it will end up being. And number 26 is Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic, and this is another one that I'm intrigued by for relatively interesting reasons. Now, of course, musical biopics are not a new thing. We know what we're going to probably get out of this movie. You know what you get out of most musical biopics. We're about to get the Bob Dylan one, which apparently is a very predictable musical biopic, right? The Michael Jackson one has been one that has been talked about for years, but for obvious reasons, it's a hard movie to make. First off, who plays Michael Jackson? He's one of the most interesting human beings who's ever lived. In this case, it will be, I believe, his nephew playing him, which I kind of like, I guess. The other two major questions is, one, how do you pull off the whole skin thing without it being culturally insensitive in 2024 or 2025, you know, America? And second, how do you handle the whole, you know, I can't say it because YouTube will just shoot down the video, but you know this stuff that he may have been doing. You've seen Macaulay Culkin's face. That dude went through some stuff. Now, I know it's like, nobody can confirm it, the evidence, you know, it's not 100%, but do they just kind of like trample over that stuff? Who knows? I'm excited to see it for that reason and that reason alone, and for the dialogue that I'm sure will be surrounding this when it comes out next year. Number 25 is the new PTA movie. Paul Thomas Anderson, he's a filmmaker that I know a lot of people love, and when they see that his, you know, he has a new movie coming out, it might rank number 1 on a lot of people's lists just because of his name alone. I've never been the biggest PTA fan. A lot of his movies I just sort of like, I don't love, like The Master and There Will Be Blood. They don't entirely work for me. Other films of his I do love, like The Phantom Thread. Now, this is going to be a bigger budget PTA movie. He's got a very big budget for it. Apparently, it's going to be about war or like the end of the world or something. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Joaquin Phoenix. And yeah, I will be seated for this one. I will be excited to see it, but yet again, just the track record of PTA and me says films don't usually speak to me as much as they speak to other film people, but it is still something that I'm looking out for. At 24 is The Materialist. Now, this is a movie that is only on this list because of its director, Celine Song, who of course directed Past Lives from a couple years ago, which was one of my favorite films of that year. This is her follow-up film, which is going to be starring Dakota Johnson. It's also going to be starring Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans and be about some sort of love triangle. I don't really know anything about the film other than that. I just know Celine Song wrote and directed one of the best movies of 2023, so maybe she could do it again in 2025. We will see if she is a one-trick pony, or if this ends up being one of the better films. I'm not the biggest fan of Dakota Johnson and this cast and the concept of a three-way love story here. I don't know if it's really my thing, but I hope she could really find that magic that she had in Past Lives. 23 is Fantastic Four and the First Steps, or whatever the hell this thing's called. Another movie starring Pedro Pascal. Of course, this is the brand new Fantastic Four movie from Marvel. Listen, I've fallen out of love with Marvel and the MCU because they just keep beating me over the head with bad movies and bad TV shows, and once in a while they release something like Deadpool and Wolverine, which I find to be just okay at best, and I'm supposed to be over the moon excited about something that's, like, just okay. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull off a Fantastic Four movie, and this seems very gimmicky, setting the whole thing in, like, the 1920s, and I don't know. I'm just so over this kind of superhero comic book Marvel side of things and the way that they produce movies. It's just so not my thing anymore, and it's just because they continue to make these safe, sort of, factory-made movies. They feel like they're made in a factory line, and I don't know. I'm intrigued by the cast. I'm intrigued by the idea that this is Fantastic Four, and we haven't had a great Fantastic Four movie in a very long time. And I'm sort of interested to see how it connects to the larger MCU and to see what Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom is actually going to look like. But I have a feeling that this one might be poopy. We'll see. At 22 is F1. Now, this is the brand new, gigantic, budgeted film, sort of the weird follow-up to Top Gun Maverick. It's, of course, directed by the same guy that made Top Gun Maverick, except this one's going to be about race cars. It's a movie that has a ridiculous budget and is as grounded and realistic and as practical as it can really get in this world. It stars Brad Pitt, and we've got little glimpses here and there of it. It looks really fun and punchy and good, and I am kind of actually really excited for this one, just because I really like Top Gun Maverick, and I'd like to see that brought into and making a gritty, real racing movie, something that we don't really get anymore. At 21 is How to Train Your Dragon, a live-action remake of the classic animated movie, a movie that I actually only watched for the first time recently. Stay tuned for a video on that. Does this really need a live-action remake? I don't know. Probably not, but I mean, if everything else is getting one, why not this? This is obviously going to be a big property moving forward for Universal. Of course, they're making, like, the freaking theme park after it. And yeah, I like the cast here. The trailer kind of sold it as this epic, big-budget, you know, Viking movie with dragons. And yeah, it has the vibes. And I really like the animated movie that I just watched a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I'm excited to see it translated into this. I dig this stuff. Yet again, doesn't need one, no, but it does have the original creator involved. I believe he's actually the director, so maybe it'll be different enough and bring something new to the screen and to the story. We'll see. At 20 is Ballerina, the first movie on this list that's appearing for a second year in a row. This is the brand new John Wick movie, essentially. It's a spin-off from John Wick starring Ana de Armas, who plays this other ballerina, killer, murderer thing. It's more John Wick. If you like the John Wick movies, that's what you're getting here. He's actually even in the movie, which is kind of goofy. But you're going to be watching Ana de Armas kill people in tremendously creative ways for 2 hours, and yeah, I think we're all excited to see that. Will it be as good as the John Wick movies? we'll have to see. But yeah, this is on the list. It's a little bit lower than it was last year, but still something I'm excited to see, and I actually think it will come out this year. At number 19 is Mother Mary. This is a brand new film from David Lowery, who is easily the weirdest director in Hollywood. And you might be asking, why is David Lowery weird? Because he, goes back and forth making movies. One year, it'll be The Green Knight, this extremely dark and in-depth, sort of slow burn, it's just a weird movie. And then, a year later, he'll make Peter Pan and Wendy for Disney, a shitty movie that was clearly just a paycheck for him. He is a filmmaker that I love. He's very creative and very adventurous in the way that he's able to capture these different stories cinematically. And Mother Mary is a brand new film with Anne Hathaway. I don't know what it's about. Maybe it's about Mary, the mom of literally Jesus Christ. I don't know. But David Lowery, Anne Hathaway, seems like it's going to be a weird David Lowery movie. I'm sold. And number 18 is Companion. This is another film that's on this list because of its amazing trailer. I had not heard of this movie. I had not really heard of the people involved in making this movie. And then I saw the trailer for this thing, and this thing, yeah, it looks like my type of thing. This is a brand new, weird, thriller sort of horror film, which stars Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. Sophie Thatcher, who is, of course, just in the brand new movie Heretic, which is a similar sort of concept movie to this. Genre movie to this. That's the better word. This is directed by Drew Hancock. I believe it is his directorial debut, and because of that, I get a little excited because with directorial debuts with weird movies like this, first off, I'm happy that they allowed the guy to make a movie that looks as weird and bizarre as this thing, but another part of me is like, ooh, this could be the birth of a new, amazing filmmaker. Or it could be the death of a new filmmaker. Who knows? All I know is this trailer's my kind of weird, and we don't have to wait that long for it. This is going to be one of the early films coming out next year that I will be excited to review. At number 17, hilariously, is Mickey 17 for the second year in a row on this list. Actually, it might be the third year in a row. God dang it, man. Warner Brothers keeps pushing this movie back. Bong Joon-ho's long-awaited follow-up to Parasite, his brand new film based on the book Mickey 7, which I have read and I found to be just okay. This looks to be a really fun sci-fi comedy with Robert Pattinson and Mark Ruffalo, and Stephen Kwan is here, and I've read the book. And the book is kind of a lot goofier than anything that Bong Joon-ho has really done before, but this movie could still be a lot of fun. The only reason it's so low on my list is because the fact that it's been pushed back as much as it is makes me think that it's not very good, and the studio knows it's not very good, and they don't know how to release it. But maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully Bong Joon-ho has something as good as Parasite. But my guess, we'll see. At number 16 is Wake Up Dead Men, aka Knives Out 3, which, yeah, Rian Johnson's been kind of killing it since the whole Last Jedi debacle, just carving out this brand new mystery franchise. Knives Out, great movie. Knives Out 2, Glass Onion, I also thought was an amazing movie. This one is seemingly going to be bigger and badder and better, and it just looks, from what we've seen of it so far, pretty good. This black and white Daniel Craig mystery thriller, who's not excited for this? It has a great cast, of course. Kaylee Spaney's in this one, Andrew Scott, Jeremy Renner. There's just a bunch of people in this film that are going to show up. There's going to be a new murder mystery, and I'm sure Rian Johnson will find a way to make this franchise still feel new and unique and exhilarating. It'll feel very different than the other two movies, and I'm excited to see how. And maybe Netflix will let it have a theatrical run. Probably not. Screw you, Netflix, you suck. At number 15 is Saw 11, a film that I thought we were going to get this year, but it ended up getting pushed back. Saw X ended up being one of the biggest surprises for me of 2023. I love the Saw movies. I kind of like how goofy they are, but how melodramatic their stories are, and sort of how well-written some of their stories are. And Saw X was a movie that had some really good character work to it. It had all the fun, goofy stuff of the Saw movies with the traps and the tension and the suspense. Saw 11 is going to be another sort of prequel/sequel, meaning it's a movie that's set way before a lot of the other ones, but after some of the other ones. So it's a sequel to Saw X, but a prequel to everything else except for Saw 1, I guess is the best way to describe it. We haven't heard too much about what this one's actually going to be about. We just know Tobin Bell's going to return, and if the after-credits scene from Saw X is to be believed, there will be other characters that a lot of people really like returning in Saw 11. I'm excited for this because I'm a Saw fan. So yeah, bring on more Saw. And number 14, believe it or not, is Bonia, aka another Yorgos Lanthimos movie. This guy needs to rest. He makes way too many movies. We had Poor Things about a year ago to the day. We had Kind of Kindness about 6 months ago. Next year, we will have Bonia, which is a brand new film with, believe it or not, Emma Stone. And even more surprising, Jesse Plemons. Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone in a Yorgos Lanthimos movie? No way. This one's got a really fun and weird plot that sounds like a Yorgos Lanthimos movie about two guys who kidnap a woman who is going to be Emma Stone because they believe she is an alien that has been sent here to destroy the Earth, essentially. Yeah, that's a Yorgos film. Yeah, I'm excited for this because of the director alone and the talent involved. We know what we're going to get out of a Yorgos Lanthimos movie at this point. It's going to be weird. It's going to be bizarre. It's the type of movie that when it ends, you're going to sit there and say, what the fuck did I just watch? But by the end of the year, it will be the type of movie that you're like, yeah, I think it was one of the best cinema experiences I had this year. and I think it probably will end up being that. And number 13 is Superman, James Gunn's brand new Superman movie, the reboot of the DCU. Of course, we just had the new trailer for it come out a couple days ago. I thought the trailer looked just fine, but I am still extremely skeptical of this movie. The movie starring David Corenswet as the Man of Steel. Man of Steel, I love that movie. You, of course, have Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor and a bunch of other people showing up. If you know what you get, if you know James Gunn at this point, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a really solid action comic book movie. How solid? Well, who knows? Sometimes you get Guardians of the Galaxy 1, which is surprisingly amazing, and sometimes you get something like The Suicide Squad, which is, like, just okay. Superman is a bigger challenge because it's a much more epic character that has a much bigger fan base and just a much denser sort of comic book background. The stakes pretty much are high here to sort of restart the DC universe and start this brand new universe that hopefully Warner Brothers and DC can be making films and TV shows out of for the next decade. So yeah, it's very ambitious, it looks huge, it looks massive, and I'm excited for this one. Do I think it's going to be good? At number 12 is Wicked for Good. Wicked Part 1, or just Wicked now, I guess it's called, was one of my more surprising movies of 2024. I was not really looking forward to it. I am not the biggest musical guy, and I'm not the biggest musical adaptation guy, but I really loved Wicked. I found it to be incredible, with amazing performances from Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. And I'm excited to see the second part of this, the second half of it, and to see where the story goes, although I have an idea because I know the play, so I kind of know where it's going, but I'm excited to see how they actually bring it to the screen. And this is a movie that might be a little more at risk of sucking than the first one, because I believe they do have to add more to this part of the story to stretch it out into a 2-hour sort of epic finale of a movie. I might be wrong on that, correct me if I am. But I'm excited to see if the actors could bring their A-game again and give performances that will yet again be in the conversation for Oscars come early 2026. And overall, it's just a movie that I didn't think I'd be excited for, but of course, after Wicked was just one of my favorite movies of last year, or this year, technically. Wicked for Good is something that is definitely going to be more on my radar than it probably would have been if Wicked Part 1 had sucked. And number 11 is The Ballad of a Small Player. This is the brand new film from Edward Berger, another guy that just is making movies like crazy. His most recent film, Conclave, is one of my favorite movies of this year. His last movie, All Quiet on the Western Front, is one of my favorite movies of that year. This man just makes banger after banger. This is a new film adapting another novel that's described as a psychological thriller involving gambling. I don't really know anything else about the film. I know Colin Farrell's in it, I know Tilda Swinton's in it, and I know Edward Berger's the type of director that I now look forward to every year when I know he has a new film. Just, I really enjoy his work. I enjoy the way he mixes music and tension and suspense, and he's just a really good filmmaker, and I'm excited to see him do a film that's a little bit different than the other two, at least his most recent films that he's done. And number 10 is Edington. This is the brand new Ari Aster film that should be coming out this year since it did film last year. It has potential to get pushed back into 2026 and be a two-time Joe Marchione most anticipated movie list, achiever. This would be a lot higher if this movie hadn't, leaked to death and we already pretty much knew the entire plot of this thing. Because the entire plot of it does sound like it could end up being an absolute disaster. At least culturally, I feel like this movie is going to be extremely divisive when it comes out. Edington, if you didn't know, is going to be starring Joaquin Phoenix, who plays this sheriff in this small western town during the COVID pandemic, and it's essentially going to be a movie studying the American political climate, at least during COVID. You're going to have Republicans, you're going to have Democrats, and they're going to be beefing over COVID, over masks, over Trump, over Biden, over all that stuff. Now, the reason why this movie sounds like a disaster is because it's 2025. And obviously, with how everything happened in the last couple months, November specifically, it might be a little bit, questionable to make a movie about the 2020 politics and how people felt about things then. It might be a movie that feels completely outdated, and I don't know. Or it could be an incredible Ari Aster film. Now, Ari Aster's a filmmaker. His first two movies, bangers. Hereditary, Midsummer, some of the best horror films ever. Then he made Beau is Afraid, a movie that I was extraordinarily excited for, and it ended up being one of my biggest disappointments ever. It was a film that felt very pretentious in a way, and like a filmmaker who was a little too overly confident in his own abilities, which is sometimes not a bad thing, and I don't think it worked with that film, and here it might end up being the same thing. At least the plot sounds like that, but I hope I'm wrong. It's high on this list for a reason, because it is Ari Aster, and I still trust him. I'm excited to see how this one plays out, but I'm cautious. I'm very cautious about it. And number 9 is Now You See Me 3. Yeah, I really like these movies. They're like guilty pleasure films. If you haven't seen the Now You See Me movies, they're movies with Jesse Eisenberg and Woody Harrelson, and they essentially play these magicians. And they're these films that have these kind of sort of thriller plots, these mysterious plots that are very illusion-based and dive into the magic and all those good things. And they're movies that I just find to be a lot of fun. They're not super amazing, you know, they're not super complex or cinematic, but they're just really fun, good time movies. It's been a while since the second one. We're finally getting the third one, which I believe will end the trilogy and end the overall story. And I've heard really good things about the script here, and I'm just excited for more Now You See Me. This is a personal choice, a personal sort of guilty pleasure for me, and I'm very excited for Now You See Me 3. I'm going to be there on day one because I'm a big Now You See Me fan, big Jesse Eisenberg fan. And number 8 is Frankenstein. Yeah, listen, if Guillermo del Toro's making a movie, it's going to be on the top 10 of my list. He's one of my favorite directors of all time. And yes, making a Frankenstein remake is interesting. There's been a billion Frankenstein movies, and of course, if there's going to be a new one, Guillermo del Toro is probably the best person to do it. This is the classic monster story being told by the modern monster movie maniac genius GOAT. This is going to be starring Jacob Elordi and Mia Goth and Oscar Isaac, who I believe is playing the monster in this. And yeah, it's Guillermo del Toro, and this might also be his last live-action film. He's talked very heavily that he wants to go and full-time make animated movies, which is kind of sad. But yeah, if this is it, it's going to be a movie that a lot of people are going to be looking forward to, and hopefully it'll be high on my end-of-year list, because Guillermo del Toro's great, and he's been number 1 on my end-of-year list before, so yeah, I'm excited for this. And number 7 is Warfare. This is a movie that we just got the trailer for, and I think it looks amazing. It's the brand new film from writer-director Alex Garland, who only co-directed this one because he started stepping away from directing. Civil War was his last full feature, and now he's just going to be a writer, and he has a lot of movies in the tank that are coming, you know, in the kitchen. He's cooking stuff up. He co-directed this one with Ray Mendoza, who is an actual war veteran, and it's supposed to be a very gritty, real depiction of war. Set in Iraq, during the War of Iraq. This has a great cast of people like Will Poulter and Joseph Quinn. It looks very similar to Civil War, which is one of my favorite movies of the year, by the way. A movie that I believe Alex Garland was able to capture real sort of tension and suspense and really sell what war looks like. Now, this is a movie. The biggest problem with Civil War is that people were more interested in, like, sort of the world building of why is America in a civil war right now? And when people didn't get those answers, they were a little bit disappointed and were a little bit distracted from the fact that all the other stuff was actually amazing in the film. This is a movie where, yeah, we don't need the world building. We know what's going on here because it's set in a real life situation. So I'm very interested to see if Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza can capture that same tension and brutality of war in this setting and just make a movie about that and about the brotherhood and survival of these soldiers. I am really down for this. I think the trailer looks spectacular. This is definitely a movie that could end up being my favorite of the year if it really hit. It could also end up being a movie that's just kind of another generic war film, but I am a big war film guy. I always enjoy them, and I really like when they study the actual darkness of war. It's not just glorifying war. It's almost like, yeah, this is why we shouldn't do war. And after Civil War, I keep saying war so much, after Alex Garland's last movie, which had that word in it, I'm very excited to see. I'm very confident that he will bring that theme into this, and I'm really pumped about this one. And number 6 is The Monkey, which is going to be written and directed by Oz Perkins. It's an adaptation of a Stephen King novel. And listen, Oz Perkins made one of my favorite horror movies of last year in Long Legs, and the trailer for this one looks absolutely wild. This looks dark and brutal and cinematically gorgeous and gory and just... I really dug the trailer for this one, and that's why it's so high. This stars Theo James, and listen, Oz Perkins is just the type of director that I get so excited about. I really love his films. He's a really tight filmmaker that understands his vision so clearly in his movies, and I'm just really excited to see what he brings to this, The Monkey. I'm glad that we're getting another film from him so soon after Long Legs, just to see if this guy is really something special in the industry, because I love Long Legs. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about it. I really loved that film, and I'm so excited for The Monkey. And number 5 is The Running Man. This is the brand new film from Edgar Wright. Yes, Edgar Wright is finally back. It's been a few years. One of the best directors in Hollywood. I just don't think there's any disputing that. And if you're somebody who loves Edgar Wright movies and you know what those movies are like, you are, of course, going to have this at the top of your most anticipated list. I love Edgar Wright, and this is a remake of a classic sort of dystopian movie. I don't really know the plot details here. I'm trying to keep myself as far away from the plot details here because I want to be sort of surprised. But it's starring Glenn Powell, who I love, and Josh Brolin. And yeah, this is going to be a wild Edgar Wright film, and that's all I need to know. And yeah, this is going to be a wild Edgar Wright film starring Glenn Powell, and that's all I need to know to buy my ticket. I'm excited. This is going to be one of my most anticipated movies all the way up until the point that I get to see it. and it might end up being one of my favorite movies of the year. At number 4 is Caught Stealing. This is the brand new film from Darren Aronofsky, another director that, yeah, if Darren Aronofsky's making a movie, it's going to be in the top 10 of my most anticipated films list this year, landing at number 4. Caught Stealing sounds like a Darren Aronofsky movie. You kind of know what you're getting from him. You get these deep character studies that focus on one person who's usually obsessive over something. They have an obsession over wrestling, over being a ballerina, over eating, over drugs, right? It's always somebody who's got an addiction or an obsession over something that they can't live without, and then they have that thing sort of taken away. How do we deal with that now? How does this character live on? That's sort of the type of movies he makes, these deep character studies that always end up emotionally affecting me. They always end up being some of my favorite movies of the year, even when everybody else hates them. Like, I love The Whale, even though I know a lot of people didn't. This one's apparently going to be starring a baseball player who gets hurt and retires way too early and has to go do something else with his life. Yeah, it's Darren Aronofsky. You know what this movie's going to be. It's going to be a gut punch. It's going to be wild. Some of the set photos, it kind of looked punkish, like weirdly set in like a weird RoboCop punk world. I don't know. Maybe it was just one scene that looked like that. But I'm digging this. I love Aronofsky, and I'm so excited that we're getting another movie from him so soon. At number 3 is 28 Years Later, and a perfect example of how one trailer can literally skyrocket your movie from being at like the bottom of somebody's list like this to number frickin' 3. The trailer for 28 Years Later is the best trailer I think ever edited. It is unbelievable in capturing what this movie's going to be, and hopefully what it will be. The first two movies in this weird sort of franchise are very, very good, with the first one being particularly amazing. This is one that's set literally 28 years, believe it or not, after the start of the zombie apocalypse, if you couldn't tell by the title. Starring Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Cillian Murphy, who is going to be back in this one. We're going to be following sort of a Last of Us type story about this guy and this boy. I don't know if they're brothers or father and son, as they go off into the apocalyptic world and have to deal with surviving. The vibes, the look, the music, everything about this just looks so fantastic, and maybe it's just a great trailer that deceives the audience, and this could end up sucking, but I really like Danny Boyle, who's the director here. I, of course, love Alex Garland, who I've already talked about, who is the writer on this film, and I just feel like this is one that's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. At number 2, we have Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This might be the final Mission Impossible movie, which is kind of sad. But this is, of course, the part 2 to Dead Reckoning, a movie that we got a couple years ago and was amazing. If you know these Mission Impossible movies, if you've been watching them all along as they've been coming out, this is, in my opinion, the best action franchise we have ever had. It is an incredible series about spies, action, drama, great, awesome, massive set pieces, stunts, really good storytelling and characters, and of course, Tom Cruise, baby. Oh, the trailer for this one is amazing and epic, and yeah, this is going to be one of the best movies of the year. It's probably going to be the biggest movie of the year when it comes to just production-wise. Actually, no, it's not. Number 1, stay tuned for a sec. But Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is going to be a massive, amazing movie, and if it ends up being the final Mission Impossible movie, what a ride it's been, and I have all the trust in the world that this is going to be a satisfying conclusion to the story of Tom Cruise's character here and to the world of Mission Impossible if it ends up being the last one. I have my doubts. Before we get into number 1, as I just kind of teased, it is a very big movie, but I also want to mention one other movie that is not coming out next year, but it almost was. At least it was supposed to. It was supposed to come out last year, actually. I'm talking about Beyond the Spider-Verse. This would be number 1. I just want to put that out there. It will be number 1 next year. I don't care what's coming out in 2026. There is a Christopher Nolan movie coming out, so maybe it won't be. But Beyond the Spider-Verse is like maybe my most anticipated movie ever. This is like GTA 6 for me. I can't wait for this. But yeah, regardless, let's move on. Number 1 is Avatar: Fire and Ash, aka Avatar 3, aka James Cameron's second movie in the last, like, 15 years, which is nuts. Yeah, Avatar: The Way of Water was a movie I was very skeptical on. It did not rank number 1 on my most anticipated list of 2022. It was actually near the bottom, because I was intrigued by it, but I just didn't know if after, what, it was like 12, 13 years, if James Cameron could still bring it as both a filmmaker and also get people invested in Avatar, a movie that was the highest grossing movie ever, but also a movie that a lot of people just kind of forgot about. Like, nobody could remember the name of the characters or who was even in the movie. So I was very skeptical of The Way of Water, if it could be as big of a movie, if it could be a movie that could really reinvigorate the love that people originally had for the world of Pandora and the story and everything. I was skeptical as hell, and I was absolutely blown away by the movie. I thought it was a masterpiece. I ranked it number 1 of that year for me. I absolutely love The Way of Water, and it completely sold me on the idea of Avatar as a franchise, of the world, of the vision of James Cameron, and knowing that the world and his vision is only getting bigger and grander, and the mysteries of Pandora are only getting wilder. I am so here to see the rest of this world and this story unfold of what's supposed to be a 5-part epic saga that could actually keep going, apparently. Just, it won't be James Cameron doing the other ones, but but for James Cameron alone, this is his magnum opus. This is what he wants to be remembered for, and yeah, I'm really thrilled about this. Obviously, this movie filmed alongside The Way of Water like 6-7 years ago. It was kind of made as a part 1 and a part 2. This is supposed to be studying the Na'vi and the evil Na'vi on Pandora, this sort of ash crew of the Na'vi, and it's going to be another ginormous 3-hour CGI epic. And if you're not excited for this, I just don't know what to say at this point. It's going to make $2 billion, gazillion, quadrillion dollars. Thank you very much, China, for that. Keeping James Cameron the highest grossing director ever. It might end up being the best movie of the year. If it's better than the second one, if it's better than the first one, it probably will end up being the best movie of this year. It's the movie that I am most intrigued by, just because, yet again, it is Jim Cameron, it is Avatar, but it's also the movie that I am genuinely most excited for, because after The Way of Water, it was just confirmed to me that, yes, this guy is one of the greatest of all time, and Avatar is a legit world and a legit franchise that should be respected in the same way that other things like Star Wars are respected. Because unlike Star Wars, Avatar hasn't had a shit movie yet, or 15 shit TV shows, or just Kathleen Kennedy ruining all of our childhoods. That has not happened yet. That'll happen in 30 years, after Jim Cameron is either dead or retired, and Disney's like, money, baby! Avatar the TV show! Avatar another TV show! How about a spin-off about Sullivan's grandchildren going off on their adventure? It's gonna be a nightmare, but we all know it's going to happen. Probably taking everything in their power right now not to do it already. I'm telling you, it's gonna be such a disaster, but Avatar Fire and Ash, easily my most anticipated movie of next year. I am so excited for it. So that's my video. I know this is a long one. Thanks for sticking around. What movies are you guys excited to see? What movies did I forget to mention? I'm sure there's a bunch. And no, the Marvel movies are not some of them. I am not excited for Thunderbolts, okay? Or Captain America and the something World Order, whatever the hell it's called. But let me know what I missed, and let me know what I should be excited about if I did miss it. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of movies that I'd never even heard of, from filmmakers I'd never heard of, that end up being some of my favorite movies of the year. Last year specifically, Anora was not on my radar, and it is a movie that's going to be near the top of my ranking. Late Night with the Devil is a movie that I hadn't heard of until a week before I had seen it, and it is also ending up at the top of my ranking. So I'm sure there will be a bunch of movies that I have no idea what they're going to be until I end up going and seeing them, and then they end up being some of my favorite movies ever. And I'm sure there are going to be some movies on this list near the top of the list, near the middle of the list, that end up being shit and end up being on my top 10 worst movies of 2025 list. That's just the nature of things. For example, last year, my number one movie, my most anticipated movie of 2024 was Joker Filet-O-Doo. Yeah, so just because Avatar is number one doesn't mean it's going to be one of my favorite movies of the year. It might be my least favorite. I doubt it, but maybe. But thank you guys for watching. Like this video, subscribe for more Twitter notifications. I'll see you in the next one.